how to become the best version of yourself is really about doing things you don't want to do. And what I've found is people who don't have a job or they don't have a family and kids, there's certain limitations that you don't realize. And if you're single and don't have kids, you have certain advantages. And so I think for the most part, people should have families 100%. What I think a big mistake I see is that you don't realize how much time and availability to work on becoming a better version of yourself for that personal development side when you don't have a family. And that's the time that you should really dedicate to doing that. And people, I mean, everybody knows that college is becoming more and more of a joke nowadays. And so it doesn't necessarily translate into just going to college, because that time in college is oftentimes wasted partying and drinking, and 80% of the stuff that you're going to learn is going to be outside the class anyways, which there's lessons to be learned there. However, when you're really on the personal development side of things, you start to realize that it's all about your fitness, your health, your mental health, your mindset, and it's really about your ability to accomplish tasks that you don't want to do, to be able to do things that you don't want to do. That's what it comes down to. It's impulse control. It's delayed gratification. It's having a long-term mindset. It's 3 to 5 years out thinking instead of what am I going to get today or tomorrow. It doesn't work that way, and it never has. How it works is you're in the situation that you're in today because of choices that you made years and decades ago. And that's really just the bottom line. So it's understanding how the world works. And if you start to look at how the world works, you have to lay a foundation down first. And if you don't have a sturdy foundation, then your structure is going to crumble. You have to have solid ground. You have to have solid footing. And where people have these get-rich schemes or these get-rich ideologies, they never work because there's no solid foundation. And it's always short-term thinking, and it really just kind of screws people over, essentially. And so when you have long-term thinking and long-term planning involved, then you understand that it's not your workout today ultimately doesn't matter. It's the combining effect over a long period of time that gets you the results. And the same thing is true in success in business. Is if you're good on your diet for one day, that's great for one day, but it's the combining effect that's really going to get you the results that you want. And it's monotonous, it's pretty boring, and that's not what people want. They want this exhilarating life, or life on the beach, or to do these things. And I think that you can build systems to potentially get to that point if that's really what you want in life. To really do nothing, to add no value, just take. But ultimately, you're going to have to provide something of value and sell it to somebody in order to get money. And you're going to have to provide some type of value. So it could be a service, it could be your job, you know, you're providing a service to your employer. It could be selling a product, it could be selling a service, a consulting service, or something of that nature, a gardening or a landscaper service. It could be, there's over 1 billion different ways to make money, because there's over 1 billion different people out there. And so you find out what people want, and then you sell them that product or that service. And it really is that simple. However, in order for you to even get to that point, it's typically the personal development side that needs to come first. And it's definitely the personal development side that's going to take you to that next level. So you can maximize your revenues and your profits, because you have to be able to connect with other people at the end of the day. With technology, AI, the most important thing, my prediction is that the most important thing in the future is going to be connectivity with other people in a real sense, not just some fake world that AI has created, but the true essence. You know, it's like when you look at those AI photos, you can tell pretty much instantaneous what's real and what's fake. It's getting very close, but there's still something off about it, right? And I think that there's, at some level, there's always going to be that, where our intuitive brain's going to pick up more and more. And what I'm talking about is, if you showed somebody an AI generated photo from today, but that person, let's say, was from the 1900s, would they be able to tell if it was fake or real? Probably not. And the reason why is because the evolution of technology. And so as we develop, our senses are also going to develop, and we're going to be able to, our bullshit meter or detector, our internal bullshit detector, is going to go off, and that's only going to get better and more supreme as technology and the other things that AI and technology are going to create in the future. And so what's going to be the most important thing is human connectivity, personal development, and your ability to communicate with other people. I think those are going to be some very important skill sets, and adaptability too, to keep up with the changes in technology and systems, because the world is only going to move faster from here on out. And so things are going to start to accelerate, which is, it's going to have pros and cons, and those pros hopefully are going to outweigh the cons in the long term for most people. But just like in anything throughout history, there's a certain percentage of the population that picks up and takes advantage of the situation, and everybody else kind of follows along. And an example of that is the car, the vehicle, right? In the 1920s or before then, when the first vehicle was invented, the Model T, at least mainstream wise, when that was first created, only the rich had it, right? Only the people who could afford to have the vehicle. Nowadays, even the poorest of the poor have a vehicle, because it's become more affordable. And so with that invention, with that progress, also comes things like car accidents. For example, let me show you this. So here's a vehicle accident. I'll flip black. So, and does that mean that the vehicle is bad? No, it's accelerated communication, it's accelerated transfer of goods and people. Overall, it's been very beneficial. The same thing is going to be true about the advancement of technology and AI. That doesn't mean that there isn't going to be car crashes. That doesn't mean that there are not going to be hurt people. Doesn't mean that there won't be Skynet and the Terminator potential as well. You know, I think that's probably a big fear for a lot of people. There's potential for destruction. There's also potential for a lot of good. And does the good outweigh the bad? That's going to be the question. And that's something that we'll have to wait and find out. Overall, though, there's going to be a bigger opportunity for people that otherwise didn't have the connection, the network that you used to have in the past to be part of the good old boy club. Now people's friends are online. Now your connections to people, they're probably not going to be where you live. You know, your close friends and people that you really have a connection with. And so that's fine. You can go travel, you know, you can fly. Some flights are very cheap to go see people. There's a ton of opportunity. And when you look out into the world, you have to start seeing opportunity and money instead of just problems and division. There's a ton of opportunity, and with that, there's going to come problems. And your ability to solve those problems based on your personal development, your problem-solving abilities, your intellect, your network of people, your team, your capabilities. That's what's going to pay dividends in the future. Everything's going to be about your personal development. Everything is going to be about your ability to communicate and resonate with other people. Those are the skill sets that need to be improved upon. Your critical thinking, problem solving. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to change your diet and your exercise routine. That's a starting point for, I think, a lot of people, because you have to get the confidence. If you're fat and you don't feel good about yourself, you're not going to have confidence to go do the things that you need to go do. So you got to be able to get the confidence, and you get the confidence by becoming competent, by becoming knowledgeable, by gaining wisdom and experience in a certain field. And that's through repetition. That's through consistency. And so the first place for most people to start is going to be in their diet and exercise routine, and just getting started. You start there, then you start looking at the other pillars of your life and the areas that you need the most help or discipline in. That could be communication, that could be your interpersonal skills or your soft skills, that could be your sales skills, your ability to sell to people on your worth or the product or service that your selling's worth. That could be accounting or HR skill sets. That could be executive, your ability to manage other people. That could be leadership. And all of those things, in my opinion, is you have to make them applicable to your personal life first before they start to stick and really make sense. And I think that when you start to make sense of your personal finances, for example, then everything else starts to make more sense. Ultimately, it's going to come down to this. You're going to need to make more money. Yes, cutting expenses and costs can be beneficial, but ultimately, you got to make more money. And money is just, it's oxygen. Nobody puts a limit on how much oxygen yet that you can take. And if you work for an employer, that's not your employer's fault for how much money you make. There's a limit on how much they can pay you. Your employer is more than likely never going to be able to pay you what you're worth. And so that is not their fault. It's not their problem. And I'm not even saying that you need to go ask for a raise. Some of you may need to go do that. But sometimes there's a cap. And that's just what it is. And that's the dilemma of having a job, or the reality of having a job, is that you have to give so many hours per week in return for an hourly rate or weekly or monthly salary. And so that is what it is. The question is what are you going to do with your time available? Are you going to waste it and drink an 18 pack over the weekend? Are you going to continuously do the same things that you've done in the past over and over again and make the same mistakes? Or are you going to make change? Are you going to do the things that you know that you need to do but you continuously don't do? Are you going to blame the same people over and over again? Or are you going to take responsibility for your actions? Most people are blaming others. Some people, when they get to self-actualization, they start to blame themselves for where they're at. And then once you have transcended, you blame nobody. You just are. You just have internal peace. And you just do the things that God intended you to do. Ultimately, it's your life. It's your story. How do you want it to go?